Clickbait title, clickbait thumbnail, lack of nuance, misinformation, fear-mongering. Now you might think that I'm talking about the latest Athlete X video. Unfortunately, I'm not. I'm talking about Dr. Mike's latest video.
Stop front squatting. What? Dr. Mike.
So I get it, it's YouTube, you have to get people to 1, click on the video, 2, watch the video and keep watching the video in order for the video to actually get seen at all. That's kind of the game, but I also feel that if you are a science-based channel and a professional channel and a bigger channel, you kind of have an obligation to draw the line somewhere, and I think that at points this was a little bit beyond where this should have been.
First, the front squat is not as stable.
So I actually agree here, but I think that the front squat passes the minimum threshold of stability needed for it to be a viable hypertrophy tool. You can actually create stability using your stabilizers, which are muscle. So you're not just training your quads, but you're training your upper back as well. So this is maybe not as a pure hypertrophy just for the quads builder, but it's working other areas as well. That might be a bug to some people, but I think for a lot of people, it's more of a feature. Same thing with gymnastic rings. They are less stable than a barbell bench press, but they are stable enough if you train your stabilizers to get you fucking yoked. And more stability is not always better. In that case, a high bar squat is not nearly as good as a leg press, and we would never ever use a dumbbell overhead press or a dumbbell bench press. So you need enough stability, but beyond that is probably not particularly beneficial.
Such that if they push really hard into the bar, it'll fall off of them. Thus, they don't push really hard into the bar. Because they're doing that, they're reducing how much neural drive is being sent to the muscles of the legs. The potential for hypertrophy and strength increase of the muscles of the legs declines relative to a high bar back squat, for example.
Yeah, so when he said this, my bullshit detector started going off just a little bit. And Mike, you can't just say shit, especially when it's already been studied. So if there was actually less neural drive to the legs, you would have less EMG. Now, I don't think EMG is perfect, but that's what EMG is. It'd be less activation of the quads. That's not true at all. And I'm not science-based, but I can Google shit. And when I hear someone say something like this, your boy gets to Googling. So here's a study compared back squats, front squats in healthy, trained individuals. Although bar position did not influence muscle activity, that's a direct quote, the front squat was as effective as the back squat in terms of overall muscle recruitment. Here's another study, kinematic and EMG activities during front and back squat variations in maximum loads. Vastus medialis was found to be greater in the front squat compared to the back squat. Another direct quote, front squat may be preferred to the back squat for knee extensor development. Here's another study with some big names. Brett Contreras, Andrew MFing Vygotsky. You never heard of him? You probably should. Schoenfeld, Beardsley, Cronin. I'd never heard of the last guy, but I underlined his name just because, it felt weird not underlining it. So don't worry, John, I got you. No statistical differences between full front and parallel squats in any of the tested muscles. Another quote. The front squat may provide a similar training stimulus to the back squat. Another study, there were no differences in quadricep muscle activation, and they also found that the back squat was evidence to be more affected by fatigue. Now, this was just the front page of a Google search, okay? So this was not hard to do. I'm not saying like, oh, look at me, the detective work. This was easy as shit. This took 30 seconds to find the first result and probably 5 minutes in total. And Mike, if you're actually science-based, you can't just say shit that you want to be true or that you believe to be true if it's not actually true.
Problem 2 is more chance for shoulder discomfort.
Discomfort, I agree. When I front squat, I get red marks across the shoulders. Most people find it to be not the most comfortable exercise on average, but there's a big difference between discomfort and injury.
The probability that your shoulders get loaded in not fun ways with 300 pounds of barbell force is rather high. For those folks, even still, front squats can needlessly stress the shoulder joint.
So 300 pounds of barbell force sounds scary, but I don't think this is really cause for concern because the weight is loaded directly on your shoulders. When you unrack a bench press, Are you going to hurt your hand? I mean, it might not feel comfortable, but do you really have to worry about hurting your hand? I mean, I could say, yeah, there's 300 pounds of barbell force going through your hand. When you leg press, there might be 1,000 pounds of leg press plate loaded force on your feet. But they're fine because the force is exactly there. There's not a long lever arm. This is just fear mongering. I had never heard of any shoulder injury. When he first said this, I was like, is he gaslighting me? I've never heard of this in myself, in people I've coached, in other people. I've never heard of this on forum posts, talking to tons of lifters. I've never, ever heard this. I actually reached out to 3 other content creators. One is a science-based guy. He had never heard of this. Also a doctor, actually. One is a member of the sort of Noble Natty community. He had never heard of this. And another one is a content creator who is really, really into Olympic lifting, and he had never heard of this either. So this was mostly for my own sanity. I'm not going to name them. I don't want to drag them into this, but I really don't think this is a concern at all.
If you have to front squat, there's no way around that, and over time, your shoulders are going to get hardy as fuck.
So I appreciate that he said this, and this is more along the lines of what my opinion is. I think because we're spending a lot of time hunched over on our computers, on our phones, a lot of people just can't front squat effectively, but you can adapt fairly quickly. It probably doesn't take a few months in order to strengthen the upper back and keep a more upright posture. To me, that sounds like a feature. That doesn't sound like a bug at all. That's a good thing about front squats. That's one of the main draws.
But that time is a time measured in months.
So? Literally, so what? Oh, it's going to take you 2 or 3 months to get used to this movement. You're going to be lifting for years. Like, that's the goal, right? To get people to lift for more than a month or 2. Do we really care about, like, oh, we're getting our quads ready for summer? Who does that anyway, right? It's a men's physique kind of thing. It's all covered up. No one gets their quads ready for the beach. But we don't take this short-term approach of like, oh, theoretically it might injure you, but it also might help you in the long term, so we're not going to do it. No, we're in this for the long term. By the way, this video is sponsored by Boostcamp. So they are a fitness app where you can log and track your progress. Tons of awesome features. Also, they give you access to some of the best programs out there. Be careful though, some of these include front squats. I know, we have some bold content creators over there, but don't worry, everything is programmed well, appropriate in terms of progression, in terms of exercise selection, and it's an excellent resource, so definitely check it out if you want to support the channel. I will leave a link in the description. And once again, thank you to Boostcamp for sponsoring this video.
The transition is often painful, literally and figuratively, because your joints are kind of like, your shoulders,
That's just fear-mongering. I'm sorry. Like, that's just super disappointing to see. Taking a popular movement, having the title, having the thumbnail, saying how it's like it could hurt your shoulders when there's no evidence of that at all. Come on, man. Come on. This is some Athlete Next type shit. You're better than that.
You're just trying to train your legs hard, so the buy-in is very high.
So I actually agree. The buy-in is definitely higher on a front squat. More technical, less room for error, probably a little bit less comfortable, etc. And these are all downsides, but that doesn't make them a terrible movement. And I could pick any movement and pick it apart and try to find bad things with it. I have seen some absolutely horrendous high bar back squats where people are good morninging the weight, they're barely using their quads, it's a lot of hips, it's a lot of lower back, but I don't judge that movement based on people fucking it up. Because that's just not fair to the movement, and that's essentially what he's doing with front squats.
Leave
front squats
alone!
He's picking apart what could go wrong instead of what could go right and the benefits you could get from the movement. Now, if you are a shorter lifter, you have shorter limbs, you are more built to squat, you can probably do high bar and stay very, very upright, get a lot of quads out of the movement, and you probably never even have to think about doing front squats, although I would also argue having variation could be useful even if you are built to high bar back squat. However, I've noticed that for a lot of taller lifters where squatting doesn't really come naturally, a high bar squat might not feel as comfortable. Maybe they struggle to hit depth, maybe they feel like it's a lot of just posterior chain, and when they switch to front squats, they can hit depth so much more easily, allows the knees to go forward really, really comfortably, they can stay upright, and they actually feel their quads doing the work.
Wow.
I love you. You complete me.
I would say that's not the majority of people, but it is absolutely a sizable minority, and it's something that I've encountered time and time again. And in those cases, sometimes front squats feel amazing, and they are extremely productive for the quadriceps. And a lot of the upper back rounding issues, they are either one, technical, or two, they are from someone trying to high bar squat their front squat. So they're used to squatting with their hips shooting back and the torso inclining, and you can get away with that when the bar is on your back. But when you front squat, if you try to pull that shit, the bar is going to fall. So it is a self-limiting variation. It forces you to squat a squat rather than hinging a squat. It slaps you in the face if you get it wrong, so it forces you to get that shit right. That's useful in terms of a teaching tool.
If we just do back squats, are we avoiding this even low probability mess of shoulder stuff that we get into?
So before, he described the shoulder incidence as rather high.
Is rather high.
Now it's low. I don't know, call me crazy, but those two things seem kind of in opposite directions.
If you're a recreational lifter, your shoulders are beat up as it is.
So I don't think we can make the assumption that all recreational lifters have beat up shoulders. Maybe they should try some front squats.
Again, the front squat can be totally safe and fine for your shoulders, but there's a chance it won't be.
So first of all, I still don't think the shoulder thing is a real thing. Second of all, there are always some risks. You just need to weigh and manage them, and I don't think this risk is worth even worrying about or thinking about. When I finish filming this video, I'm going to go outside and go to the gym. There's a chance I walk outside and someone murders me with an axe. I mean, I'm still going to go outside and go to the gym.
And all I'm saying is that chance is higher than in a high bar squat.
So I'm not buying this argument for a second. Even if theoretically the risk of injury was higher for the front squat, I think long term it would actually prevent injury by forcing you to have better posture, which is something a lot of people lack. And you have to realize not everyone has access to a million different quad variations in their gym. I've never done a hack squat. People will ask me like, oh, what do you think about hack squats? I've never done them. I've never been in a gym. I've never seen one. And so I haven't done it. So I don't know exactly what it is. Like, it's cool that you train at some of the best gyms in the world, but not everyone has access to that. I've been in gyms with no leg press. I've been in gyms with no Smith machine. I've been in gyms where basically the only options were like split squats, front squats, high bar squats. And for people with home gyms, front squats are absolutely a viable choice and far from terrible.
Keeping the position and the elbows and hands in the right place, it's like half the battle. Stay as upright as you can, keep your elbows as high as you possibly can, go all the way up and down.
So I actually agree with this, and this is because a lot of people have either poor posture, poor mobility, or they just have weak upper backs and they can't keep that extended posture. Because you don't really work this in a lot of cases, deadlifts to a certain extent, but that's probably why the front squat is often known as a very, very good deadlift accessory, because it works the hell out of your upper back. I view front squats as a quad upper back fusion. And, you know, that's not really wrong. You don't have to completely isolate every single area. And if you find that you can't keep your chest up, it's a sign that either you're trying to good morning / back squat your front squat, or you just have a weak upper back. But it'll make your upper back stronger, assuming you do the movement consistently and you do it well.
You tend to experience lung compression where the bar hits and it just caves your ribs in. It takes a lot to stay on top of it.
So front squats for higher reps are absolutely viable, assuming your cardio is good, as well as having good technique, a strong upper back, and a strong core and ability to brace and keep your technique. Look at these two studs. They're doing 2 plates for a whole bunch of reps, and they seem to be okay. They're punching that lung compression in the face. Look at them go. That's amazing. That's impressive. And I'm not saying everyone can or should do that, but they are showing that high reps for front squats are absolutely viable. Look at them go. That's just impressive. 20 plus reps with 225 on the front squat. Amazing. Good job, fellas.
Higher reps with the front squats, that's a 5, 6, even reps as high as 10 to 12. You're like, God damn it, this isn't good for reps because it fucking compresses my breathing. It's not good for max weight because it's not sufficiently stable for me and I end up just worrying about my rack position. And if it's really heavy, my shoulder discomfort is like pretty painful and pretty annoying. But understand that they have some serious limitations you may or may not run into. Just know that they're there.
So, to his credit, the end of the video was more nuanced, but overall, this video was not nuanced at all. The title, the thumbnail. Yes, I know it's YouTube, but I think if you're a science-based creator, you have to hold yourself to a little bit higher standard than front squats are terrible, please stop front squatting, etc. That is how you lose your credibility. I realize they're a big channel, and maybe because they are big, or maybe that's how they got big, from clickbait and really clickable titles, I guess, I don't know. I'll leave a comment below saying if that's okay or not. Maybe a little bit is okay, but this went a little bit too far. They didn't talk about any of the positives of front squats. It was literally just all negatives. They didn't talk about any of the potential use cases and useful features and functions of the front squat. And actually, a lot of the comments on their own video, I would say over half the comments were like, yeah, but I actually like front squats for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. They didn't talk about any of the potential benefits, of which there are many.
Can't wait for the front squat defender butthurt committee to arrive. No doubt, not having watched this video full of nuance.
Maybe if you have to preemptively call anyone who might criticize you as butthurt or emotional or part of a squad, maybe that's a little bit of a red flag, I don't know. And you can't just have unnuanced title, unnuanced thumbnail, unnuanced intro, not talk about any of the good sides along with the bad sides, and then be like, everyone's going to call this video unnuanced, but actually it's nuanced. Well, you can't make up for a whole bunch of lack of nuance with nuance at the end. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. And Dr. Mike, I imagine you don't like being compared to Geoff Cavalier at Lean X, but this is exactly his playbook. Pick an exercise everyone likes, it's very popular, have a clickbait title and thumbnail to get them to watch, and then talk about how it might hurt you, how it might injure you, the downsides of it, without talking about any of the upsides either. I mean, this is just out of the Athlete X playbook, and it's fucking disappointing to see. Anyway, if you want to support the channel, check out my books that help you a lot in your training journey. What else am I supposed to say as a YouTuber? Like the video? Am I gonna stoop to that level? Nah. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Those are always interesting. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.